I play acoustic guitar, especially acoustic, even more electric, and you just, there's the Tappan, the Tommy Emmanuel, the Phil Kiggies, all them type of guys.
Yeah.
The list goes on, and that percussive aspect that comes through a guitar, people don't understand. My friend Nana was over the other day, and he was talking to my wife about being at Chicago Music Exchange up in Chicago, and he was playing a Gary Moore acoustic that Gary Moore used to own. And the resonance of how a different acoustic feels on your chest, even when you're playing it. And it also happens for Strats with the open chamber in the back and different feels, the weights of guitars, and how you're hitting them and how you're hitting dynamics and how you're pinch harmonics and whatever the thing is you're doing, legato, you name it. I mean, I want people to understand sometimes that a guitar does fall into the percussive realm.
Yeah. It sure does, yeah. I completely agree. In fact, one of the things, like especially when playing on people's records or even playing on my own, you can listen to something that doesn't have an acoustic guitar in it, and it's almost like you're missing a shaker at times, because there's like this thing that happens where you don't necessarily hear, like, especially if the song isn't centered around an acoustic guitar part, you don't hear really the notes, but you hear the element of it being there and that like like that kind of sound that you get out of it. And there's times when I'll be working like in a session or something like that, and if we don't have an acoustic guitar part yet in the song, like I'll kind of advocate to be like, hey, we should add an acoustic guitar part, and if you don't like it, we can take it out. But it's always fun having it there. Just it does add like a percussive element, and where you mic it can really affect that as well. So
it sounds like you've had a lot of experience now the last few years since I last talked to you. I can tell from how you're talking, like you've been around a little bit, and you've. So speaking of playlists right now, what if I was to hang out? Or some viewers here to come visit you, Vincent, and we're just gonna hang out for a little bit and chill out, and you got your playlist going.
Yeah.
What's some stuff that Vincent's putting through on his playlist, man? You got what you got going? Pull out your phone if you have to. Let's just what's Vincent listening to, man?
Well, I can tell you right off the top of my head. Actually, I know for a fact. The thing that I've been listening to over the past 3 days has been the new Jason Isbell record. I think it's called Boxes in the Snow. It's great record, and it's just him with an acoustic guitar. Killer lyrics, as always, from him. So I love his music, and
So Percy breeze breaks open wide, and the river carries this house on the stones like a piece of driftwood. Cover me up, know you're enough to use me for good. cover me up and know you're enough to use me for good. So cover me up and know you're enough to use me for good.
All the stuff he does, like with the 400 unit as well. I also listen to a lot of Ray LaMontagne, if you're familiar with him. I'm trying to think who else. Dawes, great band, if you know them. Dawes is really good. They're kind of like a mix between like folk rock and like kind of Grateful Dead, Steely Dan stuff sometimes. Speaking of which, I love Steely Dan. So
Larry
yeah,
Carlton, man. Larry Carlton's one of my all-time favorites. Robin Ford, obviously, too. But
yes, yeah, Larry Carlton's great, and Dean Parks also is on those records. Lee Ritenour has been on those records. Steely Dan is just, oh gosh, their stuff is so good. Their mixing too is some of the best stuff that you'd like hear that was being released at that time. Like everything is so, and I think a lot of it has to do with the production of the music and like the parts that they create, because it all just fits in this like sonic space really well. You can hear it, what each instrument is doing, and I think a lot of that is just like picking the range of like what you're gonna play, and it's great. So yeah, their stuff is awesome
for me. So like Julian Lage, for example, if anybody hasn't listened to him right now, I mean, I feel like he's like at the forefront of a jazzy, the jazz thing. And
jazz but not jazz thing, because it's
right. Well, now explain that. Let's talk about that as nerds for a minute. Why would you say he's not a jazz? I have my reasons, but why would you say?
Well, I mean, you listen to him play acoustic guitar, and he, I mean, whether he's playing acoustic or electric, he takes full advantage of the instrument. There's like really nothing off limits as to like, what he's going to do. And that's true for a lot of the players I think I listen to. And that's why I like, being like a versatile guitarist, like being able to play a lot of different genres, just because, you listen to somebody like Julian play, and it's like, he's kind of mixing folk with jazz and blues, and it's about music at the end of the day, making music, and whatever you're hearing in your head, trying to make that come out on the guitar.
So on that note, some people don't understand this. They don't play instruments. They think jazz is jazz, and that's jazz. You know what I mean? So sometimes Julian got a lot of flack for using his type of guitar he used.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, come on, his Telecaster.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah, I don't know if
come on, man. Like, people really got offended by that when he first came out and was that big and
Really?
that popular. Oh, older guys were like, no, it's got to be a hollow body. It's got to be, right?
Well, there's something to be said about the hollow body sound too, and that's a great tone. It's just a different thing, you're painting with different colors. And so it's just, it's a preference thing too. You got to play the guitar that feels right, and for him, obviously he loves the Tele, and I think he also has like a signature with Collings as well. It's kind of more like a Gretsch inspired thing, but it's just the same thing for me. Like, not everybody's going to use a Les Paul on jazz, but I would, because it feels right, it gets
Norman
the tone
Brown,
I want.
Baby. Norman Brown was who